What's up everybody, how you doing today? In this video I want to discuss all the potential epic battles that's going to take place during Season 7. Based off all the reports that we have gotten this off-season, we should see at least 3 major battles. And if you've watched any of my breakdown videos, then you know that those battles have basically been confirmed. There are also a few other historic fights that I want to mention, just in case we could see them during a flashback scene. So I'll start at episode 1, then I'll work my way to the Season 7 finale. Reports started to come out almost immediately after Season 6 had ended, and in those reports there were talks of our first major naval attack. We have seen some fleets under attack before, like at the Battle of Blackwater Bay. We did see Stannis' fleet explode by wildfire, and we also saw ships in Marine get torched by Daenerys' dragons. But we have yet to see a full-on naval assault, with ships versus ships. Well, it looks like we're finally going to get that this season, and who better to lead the attack than Euron Greyjoy, one of the most feared and experienced men on the sea. After Euron won the Kingsmoot, Yara and Theon took off with his best ships and sailed right to Daenerys to forge a new alliance before Euron could get to her. And when Euron found out Theon and Yara took off with his fleet, he asked his men to build him 1,000 ships, because he still has every intention of conquering the world and now killing his niece and nephew, which is top priority. We still don't know exactly how many ships Euron's going to have, but we did get a sneak peek at what looks like his ship's Silence. So I imagine by the time next season starts, a good bit of time will have passed that would allow Euron to have built a new fleet and have more than likely already set sail and caught up to his previous Ironborn fleet that is now under command by Yara Greyjoy. I think Season 7 is going to open up in Episode 1 with a Greyjoy civil war right on the sea, and Yara's fleet is going to be absolutely decimated by Euron. We know that Yara can hold her own weight, and she's more than likely going to have the Martell fleet fighting by her side, who is also being led by Ellaria Sand, which is another woman that doesn't take no shit, but they are no match for an experienced veteran and psychopath like Euron Greyjoy, who may even have his ships fitted with weaponry that we haven't seen on the show yet. You have to remember, Euron has sailed all around the world. He has went places that most men fear, so I think it's safe to assume he could reveal some things that other characters in this show have no idea is even possible. In the books, we know that Euron has Dragonbinder, which is a horn used to control dragons, and I don't know how many of you have read the new chapters, but he also has a suit of armor that is made completely out of Valyrian steel, which I do hope we get to see in the show. You have to think, if Euron goes into any battle wearing this Valyrian steel suit of armor, it would probably almost make him invincible. No Castle Forged steel is going to cut through that armor, and I wonder if it would even protect him from dragonfire. The more I think about it, the more excited I get, because Euron's introduction into the show was a bit underwhelming, but he has so much potential to be one of the greatest villains yet. I just hope Dan and Dave don't continue to fuck up his storyline. Depending on how many ships he has, he should wipe out Yara, Theon, and the Sand Snakes pretty quickly, especially if he has any other kind of weaponry attached to his ships that he may have gotten during his travels. That could be some kind of projectiles or catapults that can sink a ship with a single blow. I don't expect to see Euron show any kind of mercy to the Ironborn men that join sides with Yara. And if Euron would have caught Theon and Yara before they formed an alliance with Daenerys, he would have shown them no mercy either. But now he's going to use this as an opportunity to form a new alliance with Cersei Lannister, who is already sitting on the Iron Throne, which is something that is very appealing to Euron. But I also think he's going to use Yara to negotiate with, and possibly use to try and trap or ambush Dany or her men. Euron's going to be Dany's first big test next season, and after Euron takes out the Martell and Greyjoy fleet at sea, that is going to obviously decrease the size of Dany's army, which helps even the odds just a little bit more for her adversaries. But even after Euron takes out some of her fleet, her army is still going to be too big for anyone to totally defeat. But if you can chip away at it enough, you can really increase your chances of making this thing interesting, even though she still has 3 really big-ass dragons. Which leads me to battle number 2, which is going to take place right around mid-season. This one begins with Jaime Lannister leading the Lannister army to a victory over the Tyrells in Highgarden, which is another part of Daenerys' army getting defeated. By mid-season, all those new alliances Dany made at the end of Season 6 will be completely irrelevant. Her Tyrell, Martell, and Greyjoy forces are going to be dead. Yara and Theon are still going to be alive, but they will no longer pose any kind of threat. Even though they never really did in the first place, but at least they did have some men and ships. And if all the filming reports are correct, it seems as if Jaime and Bronn conquer Highgarden without even breaking a nail. But it's what happens next that I really want to talk about. During this time, Jaime's going to strike a deal with Randall Tarley, who was once a supporter of the Tyrells. And if you're not too familiar with Randall Tarley, other than just being Sam's asshole of a father, there's one thing you should know. Randall Tarley is a legendary commander, arguably one of the best. During Robert's Rebellion, Randall Tarley fought on the side of the Targaryens, and he actually defeated Robert's forces at the Battle of Ashford. He then helped against Stannis Baratheon during the Battle of Blackwater Bay. He was a top candidate to be Hand of the King, but Cersei wouldn't allow a Tyrell bannerman to get that position. So having Randall Tarley on your side would be a significant asset with all these big battles coming up, which makes a nice addition for the Lannisters at this point. But if the reports are right, this new alliance is going to be short-lived, because when they are marching back from High Garden, they're going to get ambushed by Dany's forces. And this has the potential for being the greatest battle we see next season. It has all the ingredients to be on a scale of the Battle of the Bastards. They hired hundreds and hundreds of extras, and they also got around 100 horses for this battle scene. So I expect to see some carnage take place here. And we are finally going to see the Dothraki fight in the open field. If you remember back in Season 1, Robert Baratheon was very nervous about the Dothraki making it to Westeros, because he knew exactly what they were capable of. And we may even get to see the Unsullied finally get to show their true strength here, because so far they've been poorly used. I know the actor that plays as Grey Worm did show up on the same set as Jaime Lannister, so we could see the Lannister and Tarly forces, which are being led by one of the most legendary battle commanders, and one of the greatest swordsmen Westeros has ever seen, against the Dothraki and Unsullied, who we've heard stories about for years, but have yet to fully see them shine. And at some point during this battle, Dany is supposed to show up with her dragons, which will nearly kill Jaime Lannister, until he gets saved by Bronn. This battlefield is going to be littered with bodies, and this is only going to be in the middle of the season. Regardless of how good or bad the plots will be, I'm very excited to see these battles next season. Each year they seem to get better and better in my opinion, and we're finally going to see the dragons go up against main characters and their army. This is exactly what I've been waiting for. Cersei's defenses are going to take a major loss here, making her even more vulnerable to an attack on King's Landing, which gets us closer and closer to removing her completely from power. Just the thought of that alone makes me smile. But I've been wondering, when this battle takes place near the Reach, I wonder if Jaime's going to be able to escape. If Daenerys and her forces defeat them, and her dragons burn the Tarlys alive, I wonder how Jaime and Bronn are going to make it out of here. I would think Daenerys would take them prisoner, because it would be very hard to escape when she's on the back of a dragon. She's going to have an aerial view of the surroundings, which would give her a bird's eye view of the battlefield. I'm very curious how this ends and how they would escape. I'm wondering if she does take them prisoner and we just haven't heard about it yet. This could play into the big parlay scene at the end. If Cersei and Euron have Yara and the Sand Snakes, and Daenerys has Jaime fucking Lannister, this could make for a very interesting meeting during the Season 7 finale. Even though Euron was able to gain some leverage after defeating some of Dany's fleet out at sea and capturing some of her allies, once Daenerys takes down the great Jaime Lannister and Randall Tarley, it's going to leave the Lannisters without having many options at all. What move does Cersei really have to make, other than blowing up King's Landing so there is no capital or Iron Throne? I don't see any other move for her, unless she would kneel and give it all up, which I do not see her doing. No way in hell. But I am intrigued nonetheless. But let's move on to the next battle, which will take place north of the Wall with Jon, Jorah, Gendry, Tormund, the Hound, Beric, and Thoros, plus whoever these mystery characters may be. This one has potential too. Whether you agree with the reasoning behind Jon going north in the first place or not, just in terms of what this may look like visually during the attack, has a chance to be better than Hardhome. They have to up the ante and raise the stakes. The closer we get to the end, the crazier these battles and attacks need to be. So I expect this to be the most action-packed scene we've seen with the Night King and White Walkers to date. Even though Jon has only taken a small group of men, this still should look spectacular, considering the men he is taking. Jon, Jorah, Tormund, and the Hound alone are top-notch ass-kickers, and depending how the meeting goes on Dragonstone between Jon and Daenerys, then all of these men should have some dragonglass with them, plus Jon's Valyrian steel sword. At least I'm assuming Jon is going to get some dragonglass while he's on Dragonstone, especially if he comes up with this idea to go north of the Wall while he is there on Dragonstone. And I'm really hoping everyone that goes on this White Capture mission is equipped with a weapon that can kill White Walkers. Because they are going to need it, because I have a feeling they're going to have to fight more than just some Whites. The report that came out said that they casted over 300 people to play as Whites, and then they're going to digitally add in the rest. It says that they're going to be ambushed and caught off guard and be surrounded. so they're going to have to fight their way out of hundreds or thousands of whites, while the Night King is probably just overlooking the battle again watching Jon Snow. He's probably going to assume that Jon has no way out of it this time. But Jon isn't just with some run-of-the-mill wildlings this time. He's with the Westeros version of a SEAL Team 6. And if you don't know what SEAL Team 6 is, they were the group of Navy SEALs that took out Bin Laden. This episode should be full of some epic badassery and swordplay that I'm hoping takes up half the episode like Hardhome did. But this time we could see the Night King vs. Dragons, the battle of ice and fire, ladies and gentlemen. At some point in this episode, Daenerys is going to show up on Drogon, with at least Viserion flying by her side, if all accounts are correct. I can't wait to see the look on the Night King and White Walker's face when they see dragons for the first time. I think their eyes are going to light up like wildfire. And I know many people have hated the way this scene goes down, but this is what I've been waiting for. The story has been building up towards the ultimate conflict of ice versus fire, the others versus the dragons, and we may possibly get a taste of what's to come early during Season 7. Now, I don't know if we're ever going to see an ice dragon or not, but I'm not going to rule that out because it does feel like they may go in that direction. But just seeing the Night King and the dragons in the same scene together is going to be amazing. I've been waiting for this day for a very long time, and I expect the Night King to have an ace up his sleeve, or else Daenerys could kill him during this scene, and the show would be over, and that would suck. Something must happen in order to raise the stakes and even the playing field. Someone is going to come up with a defense against these dragons, so why wouldn't it be the Night King, the boss of all bosses? I know there are tons of people that don't want to see any dragons die, and they want to see Daenerys and Jon holding hands on the back of Drogon and fly off into the sunset together. But that is not going to happen. If you think this has a happy ending, then you haven't been paying attention, because Ramsay was right. We may see a dragon die this season, and in this scene, so brace yourself for that. Personally, I would love to see a fight amongst the dragons. Imagine Jon on the back of one of the dragons and the Night King on the back of one of the dragons and them fighting it out in the sky. I think that would be insane. But maybe I'm just too much of a fanboy, or I get excited too easily thinking about these things. But to me, it would make things much more interesting if the Night King got his hands on one of those dragons. That would strike so much more fear into Westeros. Because right now, the others don't seem like that big of a threat to me. They're still stuck behind that wall, and Daenerys has 3 dragons that could burn them all if she really wanted to. If there is no way for the Night King to take a dragon out of the sky, then we know he can't win in the end, which would really take the tension out of the last battle during the Great War. I think things are way more exciting when it goes all the way down to the wire, and both sides are pushed up against the ropes. At least that's what I'm expecting to see in a bittersweet ending. Most of the main characters are going to be dead, and we'll more than likely see the end of magic. I think we're going to lose some people in this episode too. I think Thoros and Beric are going to die. And of course, Uncle Benjen is more than likely going to die saving Jon, just like the leak said. So we're going to feel some loss in this scene. Even though Jon ultimately has a successful mission, I wonder what this is going to do to Jon and Dany psychologically. Daenerys is going to see the threat for the first time. And we know she looks at her dragons like they are her children. How's she going to feel if she not only loses a dragon, but ends up having to fight her own dragon and have to kill it again? Then Jon is going to see his Uncle Benjen again, but he almost looks like he's dead. And Benjen might end up sacrificing himself for Jon so he can live, which we know isn't going to sit well with Jon because we know that Jon loved his Uncle Benjen. Knowing that he is now a white would be traumatizing, so I expect to see the tone of the show to get much darker after these things happen. The threat is going to be greater than ever, and we're going to have lost more characters to the others. And we've seen from photos that snow is going to start to fall in King's Landing already, so we probably won't see much sunlight from here on out. So it's going to get much colder, and the snow is going to get a lot deeper. The stage is going to begin to be set for Season 8 and all those epic battles to come in the snow. But before I sign off, there are 2 other things I want to mention that could possibly be seen during a flashback scene through Bran. Now that we got the Tower of Joy scene, I feel like we may get some more context to who Jon's parents were. They've shown us that the baby Ned brought home was not from some random woman he slept with, but was actually his sister Lyanna's baby. But they still haven't shown us any sign of Jon's father, or what his father was doing while Lyanna was pregnant with Jon. HBO did release a graph that showed Rhaegar was Jon's father, but I feel like they may give us a scene and show us who this man was, other than just going off of what we have heard through legend. They could show us what happened to Rhaegar and why he wasn't at the tower Sir Arthur Dayne was guarding. I would love to get a flashback scene, even if it was just a brief scene of the battle at the Trident, which ultimately decided the outcome of Robert's rebellion. This is when Robert Baratheon and Rhaegar Targaryen fought to the death, in which Rhaegar lost. They could save this for a prequel show, but I would love if they gave us a taste of this now. Just looking at the artwork for this scene is incredible looking, but to see it in live action would be even better. To see Robert Baratheon when he was still in his prime, carrying his big-ass warhammer that most men couldn't even swing, but to actually see Rhaegar Targaryen in person would be great. To finally see this man that drove people crazy, and to see his ruby-filled armor, then to see Robert Baratheon bash in his chest with his warhammer so hard it sent those rubies flying into the water. It would be a nice nod to the book readers. This is one of the most important moments in history that set up so many things to happen. If we don't get this, then we may see the tourney of Harrenhal, which is another moment in history that set in motion the story that we know today. Now, I don't know how much of this they would show, because it was actually several days of jousting, which Rhaegar won after he defeated many legendary fighters. And although jousting is nothing like sword fighting, Rhaegar was able to defeat Sir Arthur Dayne and Barristan Selmy, who were two savage fighters in their day. If they did show some of the tournament, I would love to see some of this jousting. But ultimately, the most important part is the meeting between Lyanna and Rhaegar, and his actions that day and after that day, which led to many wars to come, and the prince that was promised. Now, this is probably too much wishful thinking, but I hope to get a glimpse of some of these things during Season 7. They can keep it short for time, but just give us a peek. But I think I've rambled on long enough. I just wanted to talk about some of the big boss fights and battles we could see during next season. I also want to give a shout out to Cal's Fukin Chickens, a good friend of mine in this community. If you haven't already, definitely go check out his channel. He has really started to ramp things up by releasing multiple videos a week that I think you guys are going to like. I also want to shout out GrayArea, who has a fairly new channel, but the quality of her content is top notch. I highly recommend checking out her channel. You won't be disappointed. Plus, she's a really cool person to talk to. But anyway, guys, that's my time for today. Thanks for stopping by to watch this. I appreciate the support as always. I will see you down in the comment section. Bye.